Okay, every day, I don't know if I mentioned this the other day, but I record every class. You'll only be on the audio portion of that recording if you talk. The video only is right here, like a webcam, it's right here and just points right at my face. So you'll never actually see any of each other like on the video or anything. There's no cameras hidden that are going to like record even group work days. It's all going to be just pointed at me. But the audio, like if you ask a question, that will be picked up. And I've noticed that dual credit Quinlan students tend to ask really great questions. So I mean, if you have a question, go ahead and ask it, because usually y'all ask some things that people otherwise wouldn't think of. You're thinking like ahead, like when you do homework, like what would you might need to know sitting in front of it that some people don't think of until it's like 5 seconds before it's due. So ask questions as you have them. That way they'll be included on the recording. I may not always use this recording for the class each week. I might use the one that happens on my 1301 on Monday, Wednesday, or the 1301 that happens on 2 hours from now, but no, 3 hours from now. But it's still a possibility. It just depends on which class goes the best. Since this class is in a giant room, probably not likely, but still. I did figure out how to get the computer to work, so I'm going to use my laptop today, not that piece of crap right there. Let's see. I guess I'll sit in this big soft chair. I don't like these things. I like the hard ones, but I don't know. I really don't know why. I guess it's because it's consistent. This is, I don't know, moves. I don't like that. But if I notice I don't end up moving at all, I probably won't do it again. So let's see. Let me get first what we're going to need for, I guess, no, I need to talk about some things first. So I did the attendance info sheets. I need y'all to pass those kind of toward the center aisle so I can come grab those. While I'm talking, or while you're passing those to the center, and I'll come grab them here in a minute. Additionally, anybody who didn't turn in their syllabus contract, I would need those as well. I think most people did, but I just need them all. Hey, there's one person last time, you don't have to call out who you were, but one person last time who turned their info sheet in last time, early, before they left. If you end up seeing around the time we do the grade conference that you're missing some points, it might be because yours went missing. I have it, I got to make sure I remember it goes with that class. But I'll be doing the grading on Friday, so hopefully I won't have any issues like that at all. Quick note about Launchpad. Y'all all have Launchpad with your textbook pack, right?
Yeah.
Did they give it to you wrapped?
Yes.
So you had to open it yourself?
No, they wrote on the back of it.
It was what now?
The code's on the back of it.
But did you get the whole bundle of textbooks wrapped in plastic?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's what I wanted.
It was wrapped in rubber bands, though, not plastic.
Y'all had rubber bands. Okay, so did you have all the books that I mentioned? So you had that, and a code?
Yeah.
Okay, and y'all didn't, I guess, buy 39451 because your school probably already had it.
School has it, or we gotta order. I'm ordering it on Amazon.
Gotcha. So the Launchpad, I want to talk about that real quick. That I said was due like what, week 13 is when those assignments are all due, and it's a self-paced kind of thing. So there won't be any due dates like immediately. Some people really want to get started on those, but I thought I would say at least hold off until Sunday. The reason I say, and really probably not even Sunday, give me Sunday, like I need the whole day, because I'm going to go in and make some changes to Launchpad's like grading, because I thought the number of questions it took me to finish a set, like a learning curve quiz, was far too high for me. Like I just felt like, gosh, I'm doing this forever. Like, so I'm going to go back and kind of cut that back. I don't think it's not supposed to take over your life. So I'm just going to try to make that we're supposed to do like little exercises you go and do. That's what the main thing is supposed to be. Now, because I'm not doing that until Sunday, I prefer nobody start. Another thing you should know is that I don't have to mention anybody, because y'all all have these bought for you. I don't have to talk about how, I'm still going to go ahead and mention it because I have it on my list. But in case anybody, for some reason, doesn't get their textbooks from Quinlan, I don't know why you wouldn't. I may have mentioned the other class day that you could get the code for $10 separate. That's not actually true. That's part of the bundle price. If you were to ever pay for that piece of software, cardboard separate, it would cost $56, which is absurd. But nonetheless, what the textbook company charges. Just FYI, make sure you don't lose that, I guess is probably my thing that I can tell you guys. Now, many of you, I'm sure, you wanted to make sure you were caught up with college things, right? You're like, this is college. I gotta make sure I get on the ball. So what you did was you saw that code, right? And you saw those instructions, and you're like, I'm gonna go and get this done because I want to be a good student. And you did the instructions, and you got all signed in Launchpad. You got your account ready, right? And you're like, there we go. I'm awesome. That's not how you do it. The responsible thing to do, which is to follow the instructions and hope that they work, that doesn't work, weirdly. What I consider to be the lazy board way of doing it is what works. So you show up to Blackboard and you go, what is this class? And you start clicking around and you go, oh, here's that Launchpad thing. There's one of the quizzes. Maybe I'll just click it. And it takes you out to a website and says, what's your email? And you're like, oh, I guess here. It says, you don't have an account. Would you like to start one? I guess. And then you realize later, you're like, oh, crap, I didn't follow the instructions on the cardboard. If it's a problem, I'll fix it. That's the way that works, is the lazy board way of doing it. The way that's responsible, like following instructions, I think I can still fix it if you've done that already, and you can still start working, but it's like I have to call somebody and get a list of student ID numbers of people. So I got to figure out whether I'll have to do all that stuff I just talked about first, like contacting them and moving things, or if it'll show up automatically. We'll just have to see once people start doing some quizzes. But the way you should do it is, and I'll kind of show you this real quick. I really hope I turn the projectors on, otherwise we're going to wait at least a couple seconds for this to hook up.
Projectors are on.
Hold on. You know what I think it is? It's this. You know what I think it is? It's this. There we go. Both of them? Can you even see that because of the stupid sun? You can see it? I'm always going to have to, or I guess I don't have to, because I thought that I was going to have to do the right click and the properties and things to make it work, but apparently since I did it one time yesterday, it's now going to work forever, so that's awesome. Oh, no. I may have to fix it in my regular classroom. That might be the problem. Okay, so. Oh, no, I don't want this one down. So, this is, if you ever have any issues with it, I'm going to post this on Blackboard probably at the end of today. But it essentially tells you to do exactly what I just said. Log into Blackboard, go to your class, click on one of the assignments. When it starts asking you questions, if it says there's a pop-up blocker, and disable it for this whole website. Then agree to whatever, register with your email address, whatever one you, I guess, want to use, not the one that, if they're going to give you oh, here's a password, you forgot your password reset thing, you want to make sure that goes to the email that you want it to go to, the one you use regularly. So you don't necessarily have to use your Dragon Mail to do that. And it says they might find an existing account or you set up a new one, and then it says you will select your access option, enter the code, and it should work that way. If you try to do it by the instructions in the cardboard, I may have to change something later. Maybe after Sunday you can start doing some quizzes, check with me to see if it's logging them correctly, and if it is, no big deal. If not, I'll have to go and make some changes and ask people for a huge list of names, and we'll see. Any questions about that before we move on? Okay. So let's see. Next, here, let me do, oh wait, can I do this both? Boom, I get that blanket. Okay. Because I basically just have a list of things that I'm doing today. So.
Is the gradebook on Blackboard?
What now?
The gradebook on Blackboard.
It should be. That's the issue that we're trying to. If you do it this way, the way I just showed you, then the grades should also appear on Blackboard. If you didn't do it that way, you may only be able to see your grades on the Launchpad website. That's why it's important to do it this way, because it'll pull them over and you'll be able to see them regularly. Let's see. I don't do any cursing, do I? No, we're good. I'm just going to, I don't care. I'm going to post my plans. You can see what I plan to do today. Is it up? Come on. Okay. So I'm giving you a quick tour of Blackboard with the goal to be that I get to Essay 1 and show you what that is. So, parishjc.blackboard.com, how you get to the class. We already did this for the syllabus, right? I showed you that?
Yes.
Okay. Sign in with your student ID. 8-digit birth date is your password. That's not me. My fake student, Magnus Baraka, has it different. I do apologize. I'm probably going to be sitting the whole time in this seat. I don't like to sit, but I will be because of how much we have to cover. So I'm going to assign both Essay 1 today and talk to you about that, and also assign the group project so we can go ahead and get moving along with that. Click Our Class. Again, you can get access to the syllabus again in the beautiful color-coded version by clicking the PDF link. Additionally, that's always going to be available down below. But to get to the first assignment that we have, has anybody already tried to do the quiz? The introductory quiz of the syllabus? So nobody has? Okay, one. And then a bunch of liars. So, nobody? You don't like being called liars? Y'all really got offended by that. I thought you were going to laugh. Nobody just let you. No, it's different. So, the quiz, people pointed out to me that the addition number, they told them they got it wrong on the textbook, but I've since changed the quiz. So if you were told you got it wrong after missing the addition number, that's been corrected. So if you put the correct addition number, now you have the points for it. There weren't many. I think I saw like 3 dual credit names, I think at that time, but you can now go and do that, and that's due by Sunday. Now, the assignment, to go ahead and get started, Essay 1, the only things you'll ever see usually are assignments that are about to be assigned that day, or assignments that we've had in the past. So Essay 1 is what pops up right now. In the future, you'll see Essay 2 is at the top, and then Essay 1's down below. What was your name? Victoria, okay. And then so on and so forth. All the papers will always go to the top, so you always see like the most recent one is at the top. I'm going to click the PDF version because it's probably easier to read, and it's probably what you can access on your phones. I want you to ask questions as we go. So if there's anything that's confusing or you want clarification on it, ask me. Stupid. Ask me. That way probably if you're having a question, lots and lots of people are too about the same thing. So it's just best to ask it. Let us see. So it's assigned today, and it's going to be due 2 weeks from last time. So it's week 3, day 1. So you have like a week and 5 days to write it. Now it is a narrative essay, so it's about yourself. That's why I give so much like a short time on this one, because usually there's no research involved, and so you know about your own life, right? And who you are. I mean, to a point. I mean, you're still young, so you have no idea who you're going to become. Everybody thinks they want to be something that they're not going to probably end up being right now. That's generally how it works. At your age, I was going to be either a psychologist or a high school band director. Neither of those ended up being true. I did stay in the teaching field. I always thought I was going to be a teacher, and that I was right about. Everything was boring except English. I just kept taking classes that didn't bore me, and the only time that happened was English. Meanwhile, my friend got a computer science degree. Sucks to be him. I'm kidding. He's banking. So, the way you're going to do this is pick one of these topics and one area within the topic. So, the assignment is to, oh wait, let's hold on because I can see all of your eyes are drifting downward. Yes, the word count is 600 to 800 words. Let's get that established now because that's probably all you're thinking. What's the word? How long does it have to be? 600 to 800 words. It's about 2.5 pages. Double spaced. So it's not too bad. I don't know if anybody's got a handwriting to typing conversion factor. I don't know what that would be. So you're going to write a narrative account of one of these first experiences. Your first experience with violence, danger, or adversity does not have to be all three. Oftentimes, if it's a situation that involves danger, it could also involve violence, but not always. So there might be some time where you were close to getting into a car wreck, but nobody actually got hurt, so there was no violence. But then there might be violence where you weren't in danger, you watch two people have a fight. So it doesn't always have to, they don't have to coincide. And then adversity is, sometimes you're not in danger of either of those things. Like maybe it's the first experience you had with like racism and being a part of that and realizing, oh my gosh, there are racist people. And then it's adversity, but you're not actually in danger nor is it violent. There's also first time in an unfamiliar surrounding. So that is a new place, not just a new situation. I don't want you to be like, oh, it's my, first time in, I don't know, it was somebody from like a one-room schoolhouse place, and they said it was my first time in, what was it? It was high school, I think, but I was like, they told me it was literally the next room. So it wasn't really a new place. It was a new, I don't know, it didn't really count to me. First encounter with someone whose culture was very different from your own. So, you met somebody who the way they live is way different than yours. And your first experience with a serious illness or death of someone close to you. I guess it could be both. Somebody who goes through an illness and then dies. I mean, it doesn't have to, but it could be that way as well. Now, if I'm asking you about your first experience, what do you think that I'm wanting you to get out of writing this? Like, what do you think that I want to see in this? Yes?
Something that you learned through it or something?
Yeah, something you learned. It doesn't have to be necessarily learned, but some way you've changed. Because you went from the first experience. If I just said, tell me about an experience where this happened, that wouldn't be a question. But since it's asking about your first experience, it's kind of like I want to see how you changed from before you went through this to after you went through this. And that's got to be like the main kind of focus that you have as you start writing and as you get all the way through to the finish. Additionally, I have a lot of students who want to tell me they've changed and not show me. So when you write this, like a lot of people, when their family member dies, they say, by the way, this is a cliche. A lot of people say this, you want to be original, don't be boring. A lot of people say the phrase, well, I learned to, when my grandma died, I learned to live life to the fullest. And I'm like, really, how do you live life to the fullest now? And they don't tell me. They just say, I really live, But I want to see like some example of some time since where you've learned to live life to the fullest. If you say, oh, I learned to live life to the fullest, and you still do exactly the same crap you did before, you haven't learned anything. You just claim to. You're kind of probably the type of person who's going to get like I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to do it. That was cruel. It had something to do with tattoos. I don't have any, so I'm not going to tell you. So format, 12-point times Roman font, double space, 1-inch page margins. You don't have to have any kind of references pages for this because, you're just referencing yourself. It's your own knowledge. So I don't really want any outside material for this essay. Must be written in first person point of view. Really shouldn't be third person overall. If you're talking about some other people, there might be some third person there, but it's not going to be mostly in third, but it needs to be in a first person essay format. Any questions so far? None? Okay. Well, no, somebody was putting their hair up. It's different. I thought it was a question. Now, grading, it has this stuff here that says it's related to grading, but the stuff that's really important is the bold stuff. So I do want you to narrate the event with vivid and perceptive details. I do want you to follow a clear chronological order. It's easy to get somebody off track of when things happen in an essay like this. I do want you to interest the reader through personal commentary and varying standard structure, exhibit differences between the time before experience, and contain a thesis that gives the narrative reason for being written, and is the point your narrative reason. So I do want all of those things. Do you have a question, ma'am? Okay. Is that the only person you need to see, or just the first one? Okay. Really, because I have a question. Can I ask you a question? I have one more student in here who does not appear on my roster, but is in the room.
Oh, okay. Let them come out too.
Okay, Lauren Hargrove, go ahead. I assume that was what it was about, right? It makes sense. Let's see. Now, I'll always provide like it's called a hint on every essay assignment, and that's not. It's not like a hint. Usually, what it is the thing people do wrong every time, and so I try to put it in bold so everybody knows not to do that thing. So the thesis for this paper, y'all know what the thesis is, right? Y'all talk about that in school? You should. Okay, good. Very simply put, in case you've forgotten, it's the point that an essay is trying to prove or something it's trying to show, the whole purpose of it. Usually contained in a sentence, can go more or less. It can't go less. I don't know why I said it could go less. It would just be an utterance. So hint, the thesis for the paper should directly relate to something that changed significantly within yourself from before the experience to afterwards. Like, for example, one time had a person, they said like, they ate some food and it made them sick, and they said, so now I don't eat pizza. And I was just like, you didn't really learn. You just avoid one certain food. It hasn't changed the way you experience life. And then it says you must show through evidence how you are different now than you were then. So don't just say you've changed and expect the reader to believe you. So I've got to see like if you really did live your life to the fullest now as a result of like, and the most, I think probably the best one is like people say they now value family more as a result of having a family member die. So they spend more time with their family. Like they actually go and see them on a regular basis when they didn't before. Like that's showing me that you've changed. You said, here's what I do that proves that I've changed. That's what I have to see it, not be told it. Did they talk to y'all about that? Show versus tell? It's always better to show somebody versus telling somebody. Think about if anybody's ever cheated on you before in a relationship, right? And they're like, baby, I've changed. And you're like, oh, all right. I didn't realize you changed. I didn't realize you weren't going to cheat on me anymore. Let's do it. Let's get back together. No. You're like, okay, how about random phone checks? And he'll be like, well. And you're like, yeah, that's what I thought. Get out of here. Enjoy her. You got to show me, don't just tell me, right? Okay, so I think I like that metaphor. That was good. I'm gonna pat myself on the back. That one really worked. That really worked. That made a lot of sense. Okay, so there is a sample paper in every single assignment that I give out, and I do want you to submit all assignments in docx or PDF format. So if you do things on an Apple computer, that will natively save as a Pages file format, .pages. And you'll have to like hit something like File, Export to, or Save a Copy As, and then DocX or PDF. Preferably PDF because I think that has the least problems when you're using a Mac to Word conversion. So it's just best to deal with PDF, and then you'll submit it to Blackboard. Additionally, if you're using Google Docs, same thing. It says Save a Copy As or Save a File As in the File section. Let's see. Questions so far? No. Random phone checks. Can you think about how many people you might even be with people right now who would not agree to that? They're like, what? I don't think so. And what does that mean really? So I'm going to go ahead and read through this sample paper real quick. It is an old sample. It is a real paper that I had, but I've protected the name of the original student, and it's now written by Magnus Baraka. So you'll always see every paper is written by Magnus Baraka. It's actually a student, but I've just changed the name. I also changed the names of the people in this essay to, I realized at one point when I didn't change names like Sarah here from something else, that people went, oh, is that this student? And I was like, oh, yep. Didn't realize everybody knew everybody from Lono. So here we go. I'm going to read through it real quick and kind of talk to you about the process of migrating how I see things when I'm, how I would read things as I read through an essay, and the kind of reactions that I have, so you know kind of how I grade something. I don't need you to tell me which topic you're doing ahead of time. I kind of like that to come naturally when I'm reading. So this says, the funny thing about promises is that they tend to ignore our handicaps. It had been years since I went to a Friday night football game. Normally I avoid such events due to my sensitive hearing. Okay. But on that particular night, I promised someone very important to me that I would be there to support her. I mean, I get that football games are loud, and you might have sensitive hearing. That would be bad. But why do you have sensitive hearing? I mean, it's kind of a mystery he's set up, which I find kind of interesting. You don't have to force mysteries into your paper. Don't give me twists. I don't need every paper to be like A Quiet Place or something. He didn't give me the standard opening. Usually he will say, life is an important thing to cherish, which is a nice way to start a paper, but everybody does the same thing all the time. So he gives me something I wasn't really expecting. So at this point, I really don't know. It could be unfamiliar surrounding because he hasn't been to a Friday night football game in a while. It could be that the person who was very important to him might be sick or in trouble, might get injured at the football game. I don't really know which it is right now. So I'm interested to continue going and figure out which topic this is. Sarah, my girlfriend of 3 months, is the captain of Lone Oak High School's color guard in the past. This is not current. I remember when summer was coming. I didn't need to mention that, but I just thought I amused myself. Okay, I remember when summer was coming to a close, she began learning drills and creating routines to teach the other members. I was somewhat fascinated by the process as it was something I never really thought about before. While I was questioning her on the matter, she slipped in the phrase, "Well, you should come watch me sometime," and we agreed that I would come to their first home game. I mean, I guess it still could go either way. It's going to be some maybe death or violence or danger maybe, or it could be an unfamiliar surrounding because you're going to a football game. It could go either way, but I'm interested. Since even before we started dating, Sarah has always been supportive and understanding about my condition. My relationship with her is the first instance in which I felt totally accepted by someone. Her kindness and encouragement have had an overwhelming impact on me. Made it my goal to show that same support in return no matter what she chose to pursue in life. Condition? Like sensitive hearing sounds more like a superpower. Like I don't know why that would be. So maybe there's something that goes along with that. I don't really know yet. And he's giving me more about her. So maybe that means that something bad happens to her. I hope not. But that's how every paper goes when I read about a death or a illness or violence or something. And then he says, on the night of the game, it suddenly occurred to me that I'd never been to Lone Oak School, much less their football field. It had been years since I attended a football game, and I suddenly began to worry. Despite the fact that my eyesight gives me an excuse, I really didn't want to make a fool out of myself. Okay. It's starting to sound more and more like an unfamiliar surrounding paper because he's going to a football game, hasn't been there before. His eyesight gives him an excuse. He's kind of shifted gears from her. So he's got bad eyesight. That's why he has sensitive hearing. I guess it's kind of made up for the hearing or the sight loss. So let's see. After walking me in, my mom left. Alone, yet not by myself, I sat in the stands listening to hundreds of cheers and chants ebb away into the endless expanse of sky. Unable to get an idea of the layout of the area, I felt very small. I could hear Sarah's voice, but I was unable to locate her. Every now and then, I felt a gentle breeze on my fingertips. I could hear the movement of the air through the openings in the stands. When the bands weren't beating on their drums, I could hear chatter from the sidelines above the monochrome, hectic clamor of the onlookers in the state. You don't have to be that fancy for me. Like, I didn't even really know what that means. Monochrome, hectic clamor. I can understand hectic clamor. You're at a football game, lots and lots of loud noise. That makes sense. Monochrome? Is this because like he doesn't see very well, so he thinks of sounds in terms of colors? And even then, wouldn't it be monochromatic? Maybe he means it in a chromatic scale type sense. Monochrome, one single sound, one single note on that scale. I don't know. That's a little too fancy. And really, I don't need stuff that's quite so hundreds of cheers and chants ebb away. Like, I don't know. It sounds like it's trying to, like somebody wrote too many, like, testing, like star test essays, you know? Like, lots of vivid details. Like, people don't really write like that. Sometimes they do. So I don't know. I just need you to like communicate to me. So I can understand though from this that it's different. It feels strange. And so yeah, it's definitely an unfamiliar surrounding paper. It's still written though much differently than I usually get. Usually like if somebody says, for example, one of the most common ones I get unfamiliar surrounding wise is I went to Mexico for the first time. And when we have those papers, usually somebody says, well, here's what Texas is like, but here's what Mexico is like. And they're telling me all the differences between the two places. And that's what I usually get. He's sort of implying the difference in how he usually experiences the world by saying this was way different because look at these aural sensations that I was having. Do I have to explain aural? A-U-R-A-L related to sound? I just want to make, in case there's ever words I say that don't make sense, I want to make sure. I'll do that all the time or try to. Not implying that you aren't smart enough to know them. It's just that not everybody in the room will always know all words at all times. I have a great idea for an app, but I don't know how to write code. I wish there was an app you could open, like when a teacher's in a class, and if they say something, that voice to text, it'll voice to text the whole the lesson that the teacher's doing to his app, and then it sends it to the cloud, to everybody. Yeah, just kind of like that. But live in like a streaming format, so that if you see a word, you're like, the hell does that mean? You click it, and it like provides a definition or takes you to a website that goes out, and you're like, oh, okay. And you can keep listening and not just be super confused. That's a good idea, isn't it? I can't write code. I don't know. So somebody else go make a lot of money off that and then give me like, I don't know, 10%. Because it's recorded now that I'm the one who came up with it. And if it'll like literally there's evidence. So no, you can't just steal it now. You'd have to make the case now in court that your app was different enough from what I said in class that you don't owe me any kind of restitution or royalties. Here we go. So I kind of like how he's implying that this is different than it usually is. And then he says, 20 minutes after my arrival, Sarah's friend Jennifer came and sat with me after that. I didn't feel as worried. I stuck with Jennifer until the halftime performance ended. During the third quarter, Sarah and I got food from the concession stand. During the fourth quarter, I was allowed to sit with the band. By then, I wasn't worried at all. Aside from the massive headache, I was actually having fun, I guess from the sound. After the game, I went with Sarah to her house where my parents picked me up. So, I'm getting from this that he's more positive on the experience that he was having. Like, he was worried at first, now he's not. I don't know. I don't really feel like that's changed, though. Like, I don't feel like he's completely changed, just that he's not so wary of this one experience. But I don't see like it's going to change him forever. Like, maybe he keeps going to football games, but I don't see that changed him in any significant way. Just like the scenario where it's like, now I don't eat pizza because I got sick one time. Like, I wouldn't say that my wife, that because of that one time she threw up eating Domino's, and now she doesn't eat Domino's, I wouldn't say that it really impacted her in like a moral, philosophical way. You know? It's just like, okay, now I don't do that. Now I go to football games. So I need to see, like, how did this affect you in the future? And I hope that he tells me because he doesn't have much space left. I've never enjoyed football games. The noise, the lights, the crowds, it can all be overwhelming to my senses. That being said, I'm a person who keeps his promises, especially the ones I care about. I can overcome any surrounding I need to, despite my vision, if I want to badly enough. I've since experienced many activities, there we go, and places with and without Sarah, and feel more comfortable reaching outside my comfort zone. Proof, come on. And whereas I have only tried and enjoyed something as daring as Six Flags and a roller skating rink up to this point, but never anything quite like a NASCAR race or a tractor pull, I'm sure there's time to fit everything in. So he literally tells me, since I've gone to Six Flags, I've gone to roller skating rinks, implying that he normally wouldn't have gone to some place like that. And so now I can see that he has changed the way he interacts with new places. He's not so scared. He does it on a regular basis now. So that's not just, oh, now I go to football games. So I've seen how he changed. He's shown me proof. That's a good paper. So I gave it a 97. Honestly, probably these days I would give it a 98. And I try to always pick a paper that was kind of near the low end of the word count. He got 583 words, which is slightly below 600, and got a 97. I wouldn't say that that's common. Usually people do have to write within the range, and usually the best papers are around 750 words on that 600, 800 scale. But he packed a whole lot into a whole little space. And so if you're able to manage to do that, yeah, you'll have a great grade too. But if you give me something that said like, I went to Mexico, Mexico is hot. I'm like, Texas is hot. How's that different? Like, I went and I saw my family. You have family here. Like, I don't get it. Like, it's like, what's the difference? You got to be, like, detailed and show me differences in most cases. In this case, he was sort of implying how it normally is for him by the level of detail he provided on the new plays, which doesn't always work. Very skilled writer. So, questions about that? Y'all are a low question group. Y'all just get it. Usually that means that when the papers start rolling in, they'll have like, I don't know. I started talking, but I didn't really have anything to say. Next, information literacy group project. So I'm also going to assign the group project today, so you'll know what to expect. So you can see there are 3 things already in here. The thing you should do first is click on the PDF for the assignment. It looks daunting, but it's really not that bad once we get into it. This is just all the stuff rolled in with it, and group projects got to have little things that are due, and then group project days we work on things. So that some are in class, there's only like one little outside of class meeting you have to have for like 15 minutes. But I'll explain how all that's going to work. So maybe some of the questions you could hold off on until we figure out how that's going to work. So there will be 2 things due this weekend for the group project. One is an information for group formation sheet. It's similar to the info sheet you gave me, but with slightly different questions so that I can determine how I should put you together. Because if you think about it, I don't really know who you are yet. So if I'm going to be grouping you, I have to know more about you and who you are. There is an aspect of it, though, that lets you kind of pick group members at the same time. Additionally, there's personal schedule form for group formation. So I ask you like where you're scheduling, where you're at, usually during the day. Like, you might say, oh, I'm in school. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. And I have noticed in the past, though, that some people, while their schedules may not completely line up, are always more willing to work with their friends. So it's fine if you just put your name. I'm always going to try to prioritize that. So I'll show you how that works when we get there. So don't just think, oh man, he's going to put me with somebody. Not in every case. In class group meeting 1, so we're going to have a day in class where we start kind of working on the group project. That's week 3, day 1. And we might only get to like talking about it, but we'll at least get put into our groups then. Outside of class group meeting, you have to have one sometime outside of this class. So that means maybe you like at school, and you could even make it happen during lunch. Doesn't really matter when it happens. Maybe right after school, maybe right before school, on the bus on the way here. But you have to have like all your group members meet in one spot for 15 minutes. And that's the only time you'll have to do that. We already talked about how it's important, like employers want it, right? Did I have time to talk about that? And I talked about that. Employers want it. If you can't figure this out, how are you going to figure out employment? You know? Maybe you currently are like, yeah, but I work at Sonic and I hate those people, so. Maybe the goal is not to hate those people. Maybe that's the goal. Learn how not to do that. Outside, so that has to happen between 9:10 and 9:25. And I'll give you an outside class group meeting log / info sheet / survey that you'll all have to fill out during that time when you have that meeting. And I'll give that to you, I think, on 9:10. In class group meeting 2, so we'll discuss implications of how the lesson that I give that day helps us think about what we're supposed to be doing. And that's on week 5, day 2. We're also having another group meeting the very next class day. And we'll start kind of finalizing those projects. A lot of times that ends up being the day when people start them. I understand both might be the case, but the project itself is due week 6, day 2. So basically like 6 weeks from now is when the whole group project will be over. So it's not going to last this whole class. In case you were worried, like, man, how long is this thing going to drag on? Only 6 weeks. After that, it's over. Well, to a point. In class on week 8, day 1, each group will present their project. If I think it's not possible that we'll all finish, I might have to implement like a time limit, because in a class of 50 people, I only have groups of sizes 3 and 4, and if that's the case, if I divide 52 by 4, what is that? 13? Yes. That was pretty good, wasn't it? I haven't done that math, and 13 math is weird. 13 group projects in an hour and 15 minutes. That's, for some reason I can't do that math. It's still around 5 minutes a piece. That's maybe even a little more. So it's not too bad, right? Yes. Assuming I have them one after the other, we might have to have like sign-up sheets or something. And then the post-group project surveys due on an individual basis. I'm asking you how you felt about your group and things on Tuesday, 10/16. I really need like your detailed responses and stuff to that, because this is the first time I'm actually doing the group project in a dual credit class. I know that there are different considerations since you all already know each other. I just had a preliminary thing. Nah, I don't want to mention that. We'll just see how it works out. So, next. The whole group project's worth 240 points out of the 2,000 in the class, or 12% of the class, because I wrap in 4 of these sheets into the in-class discussion participation grades. So 4 of those 10 grades will be for these sheets you're filling out. So each one of them is really like a half a point in the class. And the in-class group meetings don't affect your points directly, but they do affect achievements. So if you miss a in-class group meeting, you won't be able to get those achievements. And then the information literacy group project itself is worth 200 points, like the finished product that you all turn in. Now, what you're expected to produce, blah, 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 blah. It basically says, next page, I continue this discussion. I don't know why I did that. In the syllabus, it goes over like what to expect. Like, I mean, it goes over like the background and the purpose for why I have this thing, so I won't go over that again. Now, what you're supposed to do is, using the section from Patterns for College Writing, Chapter 16, Finding and Evaluating Sources, as well as Lesson from the Class, find one written, not a video source, per group member. So each one of you will have to find one type of source, and evaluate the credibility of those sources as valid pieces of source material that can be trusted for research. So remember, I talked about how we're trying to get away from the idea of fake news. So you're going to be taking all these different source types and figuring out whether they're things we can trust as sources of information. And it might be that they can be trusted for some information, but not others. You'll consider things like the sponsorship, the readership, the authorship, currency, purpose, and other possible motivating factors I haven't considered here behind each source when determining whether it's credible. We'll have lessons on that, of course. Each group should only have one type of each possible type of the following written secondary sources. So each presentation should have one person assigned to a website, one person assigned to news article, one to academic journal, one to magazine. Yes?
Does it matter what it's about? Like
It doesn't. I am going to show you a presentation here in a couple minutes that I told the groups it doesn't matter what the article's about. So you could have like one person gets an article on baseball, one person gets an article on immigration, one on civil asset forfeiture. So they could be all over the place. I did notice I tended to like better the ones that found some sort of unifying topic, since the sample one is like that. It also helped, they all kind of helped each other in that way, because they could see, well, here's how the news article wrote about this topic, here's how the website wrote about this topic, and it doesn't look as trustworthy as the other. So while you don't have to make it all the same topic, I do think it makes the project easier. The difficulty might be everybody agreeing on a topic, and so you don't have to, though. Let's see. If another type is needed because of group size, a completely different type of website may be used. So if I end up going to 5-person groups, which I don't think I will, and all projects must cover the academic journal type. My suggestion is, for example, like I try not to put like a group together with like 4 alphas, because that can be a mistake. Everybody's like fighting and saying like, I want to do the whole thing, because that can happen in a dual credit group. Everybody's more confident in their own abilities than anybody else's. I'll try not to put all those types of people together, but you probably want to give the academic journal source to the person you think has staying power and seems like they'll turn something in. Because if they don't turn in the academic journal piece, and they were the one who volunteered for it, somebody in the group will have to, because that's the most important piece. I won't accept a presentation that doesn't have it. Basically, I'll accept it, you can turn it in, but I'll give it a 0 until it has that piece. So you've got to have academic journal included. But in a 3-person group, you could do website, academic journal, magazine, news article, academic journal, magazine, or website, news article, academic journal. The only thing you can't do as a 3-person group is leave out the academic journal, or as a 4-person group, really. So let me show you a sample, because there's the requirements down here below. There's a title slide, index slide. Each group member has their own section. There's a conclusion slide where you kind of talk about what you all found out together, and a works cited slide. And I'm going to change that to references. I forgot to change the words works cited to references, but in APA it's called references. And I'll just change that, re-upload it, so it's going to say the same stuff it did now. It's just because you notice I changed APA, I just forgot to change works cited to references, so I'll do that later. But let me get over here to my folder. I don't know why I said it that way. That was weird. Show you a sample actual presentation that was turned in. I'm going to show you the one that just sort of shows where everything's laid out first, then I'll show you the one that people really turned in. So you can see here they have a title slide. I had to make up some new names for fake students. Magnus Baraka, Darius Waters, Ebony Moon, Sloan Parker. Which I think are all really cool names, personally. Then an index slide that shows, like, I actually did this wrong. The sample group did this better, where they put the number of the actual slide that their portions appeared on. I just put, like, a numbered list. I always want it to be in this order: newspaper, magazine, website, academic journal article. And then you see, like, he's got a section. It has, like, this information about the article. It could be roughly this long, roughly that long, and then you're done with your section and somebody else does theirs. So on and so forth until you get to the conclusion slide where you all kind of talk about what you found out together. Then you have, and I still have it where it says works cited, but I could just as easily change this to, this is easy, so I'll just do this. References. I'll have to look at what the appropriate Okay, so it says APA style, APA style, APA style. Okay, so when that comes out actually being done, it looks like this. So they chose their own design. You're not locked into that chalkboard design. Oh man, I don't think I have this camera pointed at me at all. Oh, it's like coming up under my chin. That sucks. I got too selfish with the positioning. So you can see they did this: Magnus, Baraka, Darius Wires, Ebony Moon, Sloan Parker. They did that where it tied in, but they put the actual slide number for where the position was. We'll just look at Magnus Baraka's real quick, where he's this like opioid abuse drives a surge in violence by Amr Madani, USA Today. The audience for publication, he had to estimate that as the general public based on what he saw, and it was written on January 29th of 2018. He talks about how it's tailored to a wide audience and gives me a quick little summary. Talks about the tone of the article, whether it seems to be at all biased. And then he talks about how valid, reliable, and credible it is. Talks about where the paper was written as to why it might be relevant to its credibility. How it uses statistics. Statistics didn't really get cited all that well. And so I'll show you more about how to do that later, but you can see they kind of talk about each one of their article, their type. And then the conclusion section, they did like one paragraph on newspapers, magazines, websites, and academic journals to kind of talk about what they determined about all the source types together as a group. And then this I will change later to APA, but since it's not technically APA right now, I'll just have to leave it. And maybe y'all can give me a new sample that I'll use in the future. I don't know. So that's kind of how it's supposed to look. Saving is enabled and protected. Oh, I didn't change anything, did I? No. So that is how it's supposed to look. Notice each person has their own section, so you're responsible for your own bit. That should cut down on what generally happens in these sorts of presentations where one person ends up having to do the whole thing. It should cut down on that. Additionally, this PowerPoint is revisable, and if y'all all got along well as a group and you didn't like the grade that you got, you can revise it as a group, turn it in as a group. But if, like, say, by some chance I misjudge things and we get 3 lazy person and a hard worker, the hard worker person can realize nobody's helping them, just do the whole thing on their own and turn it only ever into the individual link. Or you can be unhappy with the like average-ish grade that you got. You're like, I don't like this 70, but I don't want to reward these people who didn't really help that much and did crappy work by revising it for the whole group. So I'm just going to do it revise for myself, since I'm interested in keeping a high GPA because I'm trying to like fight with people for valedictorian or whatever. So you can like do that on your own. So that you're not locked into the grade that you get together, and you can improve the grade further on your own. Does that sound okay? I want to make people not get stuck with your group grade, so you have ways to change it. I feel like I'll have more people do that in dual credit, because I think I had 2 revisions last semester. Tons on the essays, but on the PowerPoints, only 2. I was like, that's weird. Let's talk about what's due this weekend. So it's this weekend. I may consider also accepting them through next Thursday, but I really want everybody to have it, at least a copy to me this weekend, and if I decide there's changes or I want people to submit again on top of the old one, I'll tell you all about that. So the first thing is information for group formation sheet. I'm just going to show you, I mean, you can download it here where you click this file, but it's a docx file that you have to fill out, so you have to have access to Word or maybe even Google Docs. We'll let you do it, but I'll just open the one that I have here. So I ask you for some stuff like, you know, your name. It's important not to forget your name, because I have to go manually write it in on the piece of printed out paper if you forget to write your name down. And that's one of those things that irritates me. And I hope that I won't remember your name at the end of the semester, but I might. Like when I'm doing grades, you know. So try to remember to like look at every box. It's your preferred email address, city of residence, like where you actually live. So for example, if I notice that somebody's in Roy City, but the rest of their group members are Quinlan, maybe that's not as easy to work out because they're having to drive pretty far to go home every day. Major, like what major you want to have. So if I find like 4 people are like nursing majors, I might go, oh, okay, they didn't put anybody down that they want to be in a group with, so maybe they'll have the same future goals. That might work. Usually at this age, it's like 12 people that want to be vets. Transportation, so do you own your own car? Do you ride a bus, own bike, walk, etc.? Y'all probably end up having these meetings at school in some fashion or on the bus, so it probably isn't relevant, but I'd still like to know. If you're just like a bus rider or something like that, write that down. If that's all you do. If you like ride a bus and own a car, that's fine as well. Kids, dependents, I really hope that's not true. Hopefully none of you have to care for somebody else 24 hours a day, but if that's the case. Also, positive personal traits for group project, like personality traits, and also your problematic personality traits for group projects. So things I might need to know about you that you think would help me put you in a group and that kind of stuff. And other important information maybe I didn't consider here for grouping that you think is relevant. Now, preferred group members, you can pick a max of 2. So while we're probably going to end up having 4-person groups, I'm only going to let you pick 2 of those people. So you may end up with 1 more person, depending. But I'm always going to give preference to people you put down. Now, this got really awkward the first time because we didn't do the full project in fall of last year, but we did make groups. I practiced making groups and how that would work. I learned that I need to mention to every single person in this room, if somebody writes your name down, they also have to write yours down. If not, I'm going to try to not put you together. That won't be true in every single circumstance, but for the most part, I should see that if you put a member's name down, they also have to put you down. I'm always going to give preference for that. Like, he put me, I put him, I'll try to get you together, whatever the cost. Because that means you think that you'll be able to work it out with that student no matter what happens. If, however, a bunch of people put down the person in the class they think is the responsible person, and that happened last semester. It was like 7 people put down the same girl's name. I didn't put her with any of the people except the ones she also put down. So keep in mind, don't just use that as a spot where you hope you can snag a responsible kid. Figure out who else wants to be in yours. I have no idea. You don't have to work that out right now. But actually, maybe you do. But I realize this. I don't know what this will do yet. This could cause extra drama that didn't already exist. Where you've got to essentially, anybody watch Big Brother? I watch Big Brother. Anybody watch Big Brother? So essentially, right now, you might be pointing out your exact alliance, which people now know exactly where your loyalties lie, which could be frightening. Or if you don't want that to happen, just leave it blank. It's up to you. There is a way somehow to choose an entire 4-person group, but I won't tell you that. It'll take your own ingenuity. Microsoft Word, Microsoft PowerPoint, Google Docs, Google Slides, Google Drive, PJC, Research Database, General Computer Navigation, Video Editing. If you have those skills, click them. I don't know whether anybody would need a video, but if somebody ever made one, I'd be like, that's cool. And then you insert a picture that represents you just like on the info sheet, but this time you can find a picture that already exists somewhere instead of having to draw it. So I had one person last semester, they just put a picture of themselves. They're like, I represent me. I was like, okay. But it was like a filtered pic, I guess. So maybe they were saying I like the way I look like this. I don't care. But you can put just a symbol of you, like a Batman symbol or something. I don't care if that represents you. So that is the information for group formation. Any questions about that? If you want to ask me what's the way that you get your 4-person group, I won't tell you. Nor will I confirm or deny whether the way you're asking about works. You'll just have to figure that out. Other questions? No? Y'all just kind of go with the flow, don't you? You're just like, whatever, it's cool. We're chill. Do y'all also turn stuff in?
Yes.
Some people hesitated. This side of the room said yes. This side of the room was like, eh. As long as you get stuff in, I'll like you. Next, personal schedule form. Oh, wait, let me show you an example. So I've got like a sample here that I can show you. So Magnus Baraka's got his filled out. He's from Commerce. His major is English. He owns his own car. He does have a dog that he takes care of. He wants people to know that. And he tries to give as much detail to making a group. So smart, kind, patient, hilarious, hardworking. He loves technology, which might help in a PowerPoint scenario. He's a master of karate. I don't see how that's relevant. He's really, really ridiculously good looking. Whatever. And then problematic personality traits. He says he's attention seeking. That could be a problem in a group. He's easily bored. Also could be problematic. He can be distracting. I guess if he thinks he's hilarious, maybe he just tells jokes all the time. He becomes belligerent when people talk about taking away his guns. Oh, gosh. So maybe stay away from that topic for your project. Stubborn, he's cocky, and he's scrutinous. So he's really gonna pay attention if he thinks people are doing things right. Other important information. Oh, see, I didn't cover this. Can't meet in the house of a cat owner. Incredibly allergic. Now, this guy's not a dual credit student. He's in a regular track class, so they decided maybe they would actually meet in a house. And he said, can't be a cat owner's house. I won't be able to breathe. So that's a good thing to know. And he puts down that he wants to be with Ebony Moon and Sloan Parker and just somehow ended up also with Darius Waters. So it worked out for him. He's good at Microsoft Word, PowerPoint. Doesn't really use the Google stuff. And then PJC, general and video edit. His picture that represents himself, I don't know what you got. It's a backwards axe? Or as you might call it, a paradox? Like a paradox axe? Not very useful, except I guess as a beating stick. You probably could kill somebody with it, yeah, but you couldn't chop down a tree. Doesn't match its main purpose. Can you imagine if they found like a murder had been committed with one of those? Or like, is this like a joke? Like, were they trying to like be funny? So, I will say that everybody's doing their PowerPoint presentations on Google Slides and exporting that to PowerPoint file. So it might be good to have somebody who's used Google Slides before, which I imagine most of y'all do now in school, right? A lot of the teachers use Google Docs and Google Slides, Google Classroom even. Do y'all use that? So yeah, you're probably pretty familiar with how to use this. So that's good. If there's somebody who's really good at it, maybe let them take charge of design and stuff, but you don't have to. Does Google Slides have good design options, or do you have to go to PowerPoint for that? Okay. So maybe somebody hops on there, saves it, and then ports it back in. I don't know.
Export also design features.
All right, let's close this one down, and then we'll go to the personal schedule. This is going to be a little harder to fill out, I think, and not as fun to fill out, but it's still relevant to me. So I've got some. It's got to be done in Excel, which you can do on Google. What is it called? Sheets? Yeah. So you can put this into Google Sheets and change it. But most of the stuff that's on here, you can't actually change. Like if I hit a button there, it says, you can't do that. And I'm like, all right. What about this name? It says put my name here, right? No. What? Oh, type name here. Got it. Magnus Baraka. And so, not the Monday. Case of the Mondays. What you'll do and the way you'll make this work is, I imagine most of you are in school, right? So as a result also of riding the bus, most of you are in school. That was dumb for me to say. You're actually Monday through Friday. By the way, you can drag the little square in the corner like I just did. Drag right there and drag it over and it'll fill the whole thing. And maybe some of you are in school all the way till what, 3:30 most likely?
3:30.
Some of you might have school events past that. And you're like, well, some of you might work, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. Let's say you got your job at Sonic. You do that the first 4 nights of the week. And you get there right after school because that's when people want their tater tots and conies. So you work all the way to like 9:30 and you go home and it's exhausting. On Friday, you're involved in football. I really don't know if they would even let you do football with this much work. And so you're doing football sometimes all the way until midnight, depending on bus trips. You really, after all these days, you want to be doing some sleep right here. What just happened? I thought I clicked the copy. Copy. So drag that over, drag that down. You're probably going to sleep. If you don't want to tell people, like, well, some people want to tell me. they'll say like sleep here, and they'll try to get as much sleep in as they can on, say, a Saturday, like till noon, if anybody will let them. And then what they'll try to do is maybe they want me to know this. Yeah, I don't have to, but if you want to tell me, hey, I'm doing church stuff. This is important. This is the Lord's work, and I'm doing that till like 7 at night every Sunday. Some people do. So you're like, really the only time you're like, really what I would prefer to do, like maybe you'll say like, just pick some random time in school. Like what time you have lunch? Like 12:30? And you're like, listen, if nobody puts me down on my sheet somehow, then I'd prefer to meet during lunch. It's the only time of the day I even have free. And let's put the preferred in there. So let's just copy that, put it here. And now here's the way I want it to work, okay? Let's say you go to sleep again at night. So this is where you sleep. And you fall asleep probably around 9 o'clock on. It's not your big sleepy day. So these are the only times you really have free. And pink is for the preferred times, the time when you really like to have that meeting. And that doesn't have to be like a lunchtime. No, do y'all have a school where you have staggered lunches? Like some people have a noon lunch, some people have 12:30. So you might put down you have a noon lunch, some people put down they have 12:30. And if that's the case, I'll try to, if nobody put each other down, I'll try to group y'all up by the same lunch period. I want to, very important to me, I will be printing these out in black and white when I have them all in, bringing them home and shuffling you into groups physically on my dining room table. So the easiest way to see when people have free and when they prefer is not to have the word preferred in there. I'd like for you to delete the word preferred so it's just a big blank pink square. Everything else have words in it. So these right here, I can tell that they have no shading in the field. It's just white. So technically I could put you as having a group meeting there if I had to, but for your preferred time, I'll always do that first. Do the pink shading. And if you do this wrong, I won't feel bad about putting you with a group you don't like. And you're like, oh, this is not what I didn't mean to do this. Well, you shouldn't have done it. You know, it's unfortunate, but it's a high stakes environment that's filling out these forms. So keep that in mind. Let me show you an example of somebody else who did one. Here's a Magnus Baraka one. Notice his schedule wildly different, and yours probably won't be quite like this, but he has time before class on Tuesdays and Thursday, but that's the only time he has. He has work in the evening times. He's doing other stuff on the weekends. Basically, he just didn't want to work on the weekends with his group, so he just blocked the whole thing out. And he said, well, I technically can do it right here in the hour before work. I'd really like to, once school is over, do it then. So if you know you don't have anything after school, you're like, really, this is the best time for me. Mark that as pink, you know? Totally up to you when you mark as your pink time. But notice how he does not have what in the pink squares? Words, nothing. No preferred, no words, no nothing. I want only the times that you think you could actually meet with a group for 15 minutes to be the times that you leave blank in terms of wording. Everything else should have words in it. Don't just give me the color coding for everything. Like, don't just give me like orange squares for church, but not put the word other in there. I gotta have words in there if it's not a time that you want me to consider as preferred or blank. Because I print them out in black and white, so I'm gonna just like lay squares next to each other. I can't tell which squares are purple, pink, and yellow if it's black and white. I don't have access to a color copier where somebody would let me print hundreds of copies of things in color. They'd be like, you're fired. Too much ink. So, are there questions about that? You would save both, submit them, upload them to Blackboard in that place. Let me show you just real quick where that is. So you click here, information for group formation sheet. It takes you to the assignment, or should. You click browse my computer, not type submission. You select the file. Well, I shouldn't do that. Let's do this. 1301. Which one is this? Information for group formation sheet? Have y'all used Blackboard before? Okay. So with Blackboard and the way you use it, Why can't I find this? Oh, there it is. So let's do his sample one. If it is submitted correctly, I hope the teacher told you this before, maybe they didn't. If it's submitted correctly, you should see it.
So that takes a minute.
It usually doesn't for me, unless the internet here is stupid. It might say converting here, but it should just pop up immediately if you did it properly. If you don't see something here, I won't see something here. So you must keep submitting until you see something in this box. Once you do, it shows that you've done it properly, and you're done. And if you decide you want to make changes, you can always start new, submit the new one over the top of the old one. I won't consider the old one anymore, just the new one. I can get it to print out just your most recent submissions. If you try to submit and just type into the submit, like the box, like, sorry I did 2 copies on that last one, but you don't submit anything with that, it's just going to print out that comment you made to me. So make sure you have the assignment submitted on the very most recent thing you've submitted to me. That's it. So I told you 9:15 every day. Y'all get out of here.